Hey guys, welcome to OneGauge's first video series where we'll walk you through preparing, purchasing, and installing a totally custom digital gauge setup for your vehicle. In part 1, we'll introduce you to our demo car, explain a few basic OneGauge features, and show you how to prepare to get the most out of your digital dash. Alright, so welcome to part 1 of OneGauge's first video series. So today we're going to walk you through some of the features of OneGauge. I want to show you the car that we're going to be working on and just give you an idea of how you can prepare to purchase and order a OneGauge system yourself. So the first thing I want to show you is our demo car. So this is a 1990 Mazda Miata. I purchased it just a few weeks ago. Really haven't done much to it. Obviously it could use some cosmetic attention and a little bit of TLC here and there, but overall it's a really great driver. It's a lot of fun. It's my first Miata, my first convertible, so I'm really enjoying taking it out in good weather. So for the most part everything works really well on it. The instrument cluster does have a few issues. So most of the gauges work, but the odometer doesn't work, and because of the steering wheel swap there's an ABS light that's always flashing on and off. And then of course there's just the general limited nature of a stock instrument cluster. Occasionally I get a charging light. I'm not really sure if that's coming on because the voltage is too low or too high to the cluster. So there's just a lot more information that I'd like to be able to get out of my gauges that the stock cluster doesn't provide. So as you're preparing to look to shop for some digital gauges from us for the first time, there's a few things that you're going to want to know about your car. So the first is obviously the year, make, and model, specifically of the engine, because if your car's had an engine swap or doesn't have the stock engine, that can change things a little bit. So the big thing with this is if your car has OBD2 or not. So vehicles made after 1996 require an OBD2 port. But if your car's been engine swapped, then it may or may not have that. So that's just one of the options that we use. An OBD2 port is not required, but it does provide an easy way to get a lot of engine data straight from the engine. And then of course if you're contacting us and you have any other major engine upgrades or changes, maybe you've got an aftermarket ECU, maybe you've got an aftermarket EFI kit like a Holley, Edelbrock, those types of kits on a carbureted vehicle, that information is also really helpful. So if you can include all that information when you reach out to us about your project, then that would make our job much easier in providing the best recommendations to you. So now that you've got some of that basic key information, you really want to plan out your OneGauge purchase. So this vehicle, the Miata, is a 1990, like I said, so it does not have OBD2. So we'll be doing more of a standard sensor setup. So this is the type of setup that you would use like for this vehicle without OBD2, or if you have a carbureted vehicle, or maybe if you're using the system on a boat or some other vehicle that doesn't necessarily have an ECU. So the standard setup uses just regular off-the-shelf sensors that can be purchased pretty much anywhere online or in an auto parts store. These are the types of sensors that are often found on a stock vehicle. So the standard temperature, pressure, speedometer, other sensors that can be found on your vehicle as it comes from the factory. What OneGauge does differently is that we combine all of these readings. We use a computer to read them so that they're digital, and then we combine them all so that they can be accurately displayed on whatever screen you use. The other options, so there's the standard sensor setup. The other options are, of course, an OBD2 setup that basically uses an OBD2 reader to read a lot of the data from your vehicle. Now, the big thing here is that we can only read the information that's coming out of your engine. So OBD2 setups can offer a ton of different information, but it varies by your make and model. So it's important to have expectations set so you know exactly what readings you expect out of your OBD2 system. And then the other thing is a CAN bus or an EFI setup. So if you've got an aftermarket engine computer, then often we can connect directly to that and get really fast readings for your sensors that are 100% accurate because they come directly from your ECU. So that's another really great way. It's a really easy, usually plug and play option for installing our setups. So the next thing to think about is what kind of screen you want. So in our Miata here, we're going to be using a high brightness 7-inch LCD touchscreen. So this is a variation on our standard LCD touchscreen that we sell. We have about 30 or so different themes or designs on each setup that are included with each one. So these setups, these screens are really versatile. They allow basically infinite customization. We can design a screen for you that's totally unique and different from anything else on the market. So a few questions you want to ask yourself when you're preparing to purchase a screen is, first, do you want the screen to be removable or permanent? So if you're looking for a removable screen, or really just for a good budget option, an Android tablet or phone is a really good way to achieve that. So all of our setups include communication with an Android device that uses either Torque Pro or Real Dash, which are two very popular apps for Android. You can do things like data logging. You can overlay your gauges onto your camera on your phone, so you can make, track day videos and things like that. There's really a whole lot of, again, customization and options that can be had with an Android setup. But if you're looking for something a little bit more permanent, then we would recommend one of our LCD screens. So another question to ask yourself is, do you want to fabricate your own dash, or do you want something to fit into your factory cluster? So if you're making your own dashboard, usually that's very easy to install one of our screens. You basically just have to cut a hole for the screen itself. If you're looking to install a screen in your factory dash and you're not looking to make too many modifications, then a lot of times, like for this Miata, we offer partnerships with different cluster manufacturers, people that make aluminum or other metal or 3D printed plastic cluster replacements that fit our screens. So those are a great way to make installation much easier. So if you're looking for something like that, just mention that as you reach out to us and we can look for an option. And then the next thing to think about is, are there any other key features you need, like high brightness for a roofless vehicle, or maybe you need waterproofing for a boat? So that's something that you should mention. And then the last thing is, how much space do you have in your dash for a screen? We have different LCD screen templates available on theonegauge.com/FAQs. And so that's a good place to be able to refer to different screen sizes. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the Miata and the plan for that. So the current cluster, like I said, works pretty well. The odometer reading doesn't work. We've got a few indicator lights that don't work really well. But we really want to make this car stand out, make it something different. And then, for a future owner, make it a car that would be awesome to take to the track or to other, track day or autocross type events that would provide them the information they need. So the first thing to note is we have an LRB Speed cluster housing. So this is a custom cluster housing that a popular Miata parts manufacturer makes for us. It's a small business and they make custom NA and MB Miata parts. We at OneGauge typically don't make housings for clusters. Like I said, we partner with others. And this is a great example of an enthusiast who's out there making some really cool parts, and we work with them to make our screens fit the clusters that they already make. So like I said, we have a high brightness 7-inch LCD screen. We'll have adjustable brightness on that, so we can adjust it up and down for nighttime. I've done an interesting rotary knob style adjustment for this, but typically the screen adjustment for brightness is on the screen. We'll use a few of the factory sensors for this, and I'll show you how to wire those up in our installation video. So we'll have the factory tachometer. We'll likely use the factory coolant temp and the factory oil pressure sensors because they all seem to be very accurate. We'll also use some of the factory indicators like the blinkers and some of the primary lights like parking brake, check engine light, things like that. We'll use an upgraded version of our GPS. So here at OneGauge, we offer a couple different versions of our GPS. The standard one updates about 5 times a second, which is more than fast enough for standard driving. But if you're doing a little bit more spirited driving or racing, you might look at the upgraded GPS that not only gets a fix on satellites more quickly, but it updates 2 to 3 times more quickly than the standard. And then the standard with every OneGauge setup is voltage and fuel level. So voltage is read by whatever power source the OneGauge is powered by. It just reads that voltage and provides that as your battery voltage. And then the fuel level can be custom programmed on screen to the sender resistance of your fuel level sender. So that can be customized to whatever you need. And then we're going to add some other sensors for fun, maybe ones that aren't necessarily vital, but an accelerometer for some G-force readings, and then a vacuum and boost sensor to keep an eye on our vacuum. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. You can reach us directly at info@theonegauge.com, or you can visit our website, theonegauge.com, or our Facebook page where we have tons of videos, demos, explanations. It's facebook.com/OneGauge. Thanks so much for watching.